Okay, thank you very much. Welcome back to another edition of the special one. And today we have a special guest indeed, that is Sadibou Kamaso. The name is very familiar in the Gambian media. He is our guest for today's program. Sadibou, you welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always a pleasure to be interviewed by the special one.
Exactly. Sadibou, can you just tell us a brief history, about yourself, your origin, your educational background, so that the viewers might know, who this special personality is?
Good question, Sarah. My name is Sadibou Kamaso, of course. I was born in Banjul, Grand Street, to be precise. My parents are from CARA. My dad is from Kerewan Dumbokono, excuse me, and my mom is from Bansang Jobatekunda. My grandfather was the first person to have played the kora at the Radio Gambia, Amadou Bansang Jobate.
Yes, but you're not playing the kora.
Unfortunately, I used to when I was a kid, but then, growing up, we all decided to go different paths.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm Mandinka by tribe. I did my nursery school in Banjul, Methodist Nursery School, then to Methodist Primary School, where when I finished Methodist Primary School, I went to Gambia Middle School. It used to be Gambia High School until this new grading system started. We were the first batch, so I was at Gambia Middle School. From Gambia Middle School, I went to Gambia Senior Secondary School. Then Gambia Senior Secondary School, when I finished, I started my own business, and then I worked for an institution that was doing international student travel, and I was handling student travel issues and stuff like that are related to it. Until when that office closed, I started my own, and then I was doing student travel, bringing international students that wanted to do volunteer work here in the Gambia. With that, I was country manager for a UK-based charity, and that was how I was going to the UK. So I lived in the UK. I also have a bachelor's degree in international relations and diplomatic studies from Cavendish University in Uganda, and a diploma in law with distinction from the West African Insurance Institute. So when I came back home in 2008, I decided to establish my business called Creation Plus. With my experience and background, having worked in other institutions, other printing companies like DBC, Ultrasoft, LED Print, I was able to establish my own when I came back 2008, and that's the same business we're here today conducting this interview called Creation Plus. Okay.
How was it like growing up, as a youngster, in Banjul those days?
I know, I have very nostalgic feelings about that. I remember some of the older guys would tell us, one of you must go crazy, because we were very stubborn back in the days. You'd go to the market, to make grown soup, and we wouldn't go with any money. So they would task each and every one of us to come with something.
With something that's
okay. Yeah, and my parents, especially my mom, would prevent me from going to the beach, because at the time, you hear all these stories about people drowning in the sea back then. So my mom would prevent me from going to the beach. So I had a strict regime. I'd go to school. From school, I had to go to Quranic studies. They call it Dara. And even Saturdays, Sundays, I had to. So it was a strict one. And being the first to have been educated in my family, my parents wanted to make sure that, I did the best and I excelled in class. So my mom would never settle for less any time that I come home after exams with second position. So as a kid, those who I went to the same class with in primary school will tell you, Sadibou Kai forced me Momoko de jail. So it wasn't easy because, coming from a humble background, in the mornings, I can still remember that my mom would send me to go and, get the, the millet pounded so that we could do the local porridge rui. And then in the afternoon, I'll go and buy, firewood and then go and buy sugar. So I had a very good, strict upbringing, which I really thank my parents for, because that kind of shaped me to what I am today.
Okay, but you've mentioned that your father was a kora player, all right? Why haven't you ventured into that field? Why do you try other fields?
My father started it, and at some point he didn't. He got associated with these Tukulors from Medina Gunas.
Okay.
So he was more into the religious aspect of things than the kora.
Okay.
He kind of stopped it at some point. He was a very good kora player. I remember there were koras in our house. As a kid, I would play it in our house, and even when I go for holidays to my granddad's house at Kembuje, where Amadou Bansang, the late my granddad, was settled, I'll play it as a kid. I was one of the best. Okay. But growing up, eventually, I think everybody wanted me to focus more on education, because maybe they saw how I was performing well in school. So yeah, my dad also, because he kind of shifted his attention to more of the religious aspect, because at some point at the mosque in Banjul, you know, Lawyer Saho, the late Lawyer Saho's house, there was a mosque there. This is where these people from Medina Gunas would pray. He, you know, he was the one that would call the adhan. So he kind of shifted to that, and they wanted me to focus on education rather than the Quran. So I believe that must have been the reason why I didn't focus on it. But I wish I did. I wish I can still play the Quran just to enjoy myself.
Well, so was it a smooth, was the road smooth for you? You know, your educational background, your work up to this stage?
I must say I'm very grateful to my parents. How they did it, I still don't know. But I've never been sent home from school for school fees. Back in the day, you had what they call school fund.
Yeah.
You know, we used to pay the school fund, and my dad would pay it, my mom would pay it. And when I went to Gambia High School, I remember we used to pay $250 for school fees. You know, I would still, you know, I would still have my school fees paid. I think at some point, because we had distinction and there was a scholarship, you know, those who had distinction in grade 9, so I was lucky to have, you know, benefited from that, because most of the, those who had good grades. But it wasn't easy, to be honest. I mean, going to school as the first child to be educated in the family, I mean, you know, most of these families would have somebody that would kind of show them, you know, their work, you know, when they're studying. So I would bring my homeworks. I think there was that shared determination in me from that early age. Yeah. And my parents would always ensure that I read my books, whether they know what's there or not, you know. Like I said, what they would always ensure, after exams, when I come home, I must come home with first position. Okay. That was something that they wouldn't settle for, unless, you know, until I got to Gambia High School. But at that age, it wasn't easy, and they instilled some very strict discipline in me. As I said, you go to school, after school you go for studies, then after that you have to go to Dara, and then you're back home. So I had limited time to play with my friends.
To play with your friends, exactly, yeah.
My mom used to give me some good beatings as a kid though, because I used to, you know, run away from Dara. You know, they call it Dara. I used to be very stubborn as a kid. You know, Dara. I remember this time, this funny story, you know, we had to go to Denton Bridge. That's where we get these, you know, not the oysters, but the other one, the pine.
Yeah.
So I think she was coming from the Combos and she saw us walking home. Ooh. You know, we had these oysters, we were coming home. I came home, I was all happy that I got this. She gave me a good beating. You know, because when I come, she would lick my neck to know whether I was at, you know, I had gone to the beach or not. But as a kid, we would do those things. And I'm grateful. And, you know, I can't but just thank my parents for the strict upbringing.
And what get you into printing, you know, growing as a youngster, you have love for printing, you've established successfully, you know, your own printing company.
Sarah, I think since I was much younger, I've always wanted to be better. Yeah. I mean, whether it was my parents and, you know, God also instilled that in me, which I am grateful for. That is also something that I would say played a part, because I remember going for holidays at my granddad's in Kembuje. Yeah. You know, coming from Banjul, we had street lights. And this place was pitch black. It was dark when I came out at night. You know, we were in the house chatting until it was late. I wanted to come out. It was so dark I couldn't see. So I was trying to walk, you know, out to find my way to my grandma's room. Yeah. I remember like my, you know, walking, and I was trying to feel my way, and my grandma shouted and said, "Sadibou, take a muneketeng." And I was like, "Mukanja," you know, because I couldn't see. She said, "You came from the you know, so that scared me. And then she said, "You have to close your eyes." So I had to close my eyes for a while and then open them, because, you know, then I could get used to the dark. Yeah. So as a kid, I said to myself, I must buy a generator in this house. Okay. As a kid, and I did that. I was the first to buy a generator to take it to that house in Kembuje.
Because you were afraid of the dark.
Yeah, you know, I come from Banjul and we have street lights. Yeah. So I thought that was something to be done. And then coming from a humble background, you know, my parents are blessed with 9 children. Yeah. It's 9 of us, and I have 7 sisters and 1 brother. He's younger. Yeah. So I'm the middle child and the first male. Okay. So my dad has always given me this responsibility as a kid. Even his locker where he would keep his things, he would keep some monies there. Okay. And I had the keys at a young age. You know, even next door to our house, they sell a cup of sugar for $1.50 bututs. But in the market in Banjul, it's $1. Yeah. So every day he will send me all the way to the market to buy it. There were times I would keep my lunch so that I would just, you know, complete this money so I can just buy from the shop. But he will ask the man whether I came there the previous day. And if I don't, he'll tell me to return the money, and so he, all those disciplines. So growing up, he was teaching me these things, and my dad never beat me. Yeah. He would always put you to strict, regime of things that you have to do. So he made me understand that I needed to be the one that would shoulder the responsibilities of the family. So when I had my first job and first contract, I would say, he said I needed to bring it home so I could give it to him. I gave it to him, and he, just took all of it and gave me some.
And then decided to distribute it.
Yes, and he told me that, from now on you should start doing A, B, and C. Okay. And I think I was so proud that I was bringing something home. And my dad, in his final, final days, he was not feeling too well, and he couldn't do a lot. So I would, take care of a lot of things, and that made me more responsible. And one of my sisters who lives in the US now, was also, engaged in some little businesses. So she would also complement. So we kind of connected, and then I started helping pay even my siblings' school fees. So that responsibility, grew with me at the time, and it made me always want to do more. So even these graphics that I'm doing, I taught myself. I mean, yes, I started working at the Student and Youth Travel Organization in 1998 when I graduated. Okay. This was an office that was doing student travel, but next to it was ROC. They had a printing business. Yeah. So in my free time, I'll go around and see what they're doing. There was a lady called Ndei Ture. I cannot but thank her, with Mrs. Gillen, Olivia Gillen. That's my former boss, Mr. Kasalu Gillen's wife. They would be doing their graphics. So I'll come and be sitting behind them to see what they're doing. I kind of grew an interest in it, and then when I go home, I'll practice more, and then that the rest is history. So I always had that sheer determination to always want to be better. And that also got me into student travel and other things and all the other things that I was doing. Sarah, I'll tell you, I used to go to Dakar to buy papers, stationeries and other things to come and sell here in the Gambia. I'll leave here first thing in the morning, I'll hire a car from my uncle, drive, go to Dakar, buy the papers, come and sell them and go back. So I did anything legitimate that would make me money, so I could survive. So I had always wanted to be better.
Wow, that's brilliant. You've mentioned that you've been in UK. You've studied also in UK. You stayed in UK. Why did you decide to come back, to the Gambia? A lot of people who get the opportunity, would rather stay in UK and then, work there, because the life there and the life here is quite different.
Sarah, I even had a very good job there. I had a very good job. I was security manager for a company called Management Protection Services. I had my own patrol car. I had my own petrol card. I had a phone, with so many minutes I could call anywhere I wanted, But when I was going to the UK, I always had an ambition to go there and try to make something to bring back. Because when I was going there, I was country manager for a company called Mondo Challenge that was bringing international volunteers here in the Gambia. But I've always had a target, because I know I could make a lot more difference here than there. Because when these international students were coming here, we were placing them in different organizations, like Tarud in Gunjur, Santayala Support Society, Govi. We were taking them to these places to volunteer. And I realized how much impact volunteering, was bringing into this country. So for me, it wasn't a matter of going there and stay. It was always a matter of going there, to build my capacity and then get what I can get and then come back home. So that job that I had here didn't mean that I needed to go there and stay. There are lots of people who are out there that wanted to come. I had a good job. Even when I told my boss I was coming, I remember even my younger brother said to me, "You're really going home?" I said, "Yes." But I always wanted to come back home. I knew I could make a difference here. I knew there was something that, we the young ones needed to give back to this country to make it move forward. Okay.
Well, away from that, your name is very familiar, with football in this country. All right, you've did a lot, for football in this country. But how was it, young Sadibou venturing, into football, a game that was not that much, I would say, success in this country by then?
Sarah, see, as a kid, I lived in Grand Street, and we had a club that was in New Street. We had a boy called Omar. They call him Izo. He kind of looks after all these young ones. Some of the people who I grew up with would remember that. They used to give me the number 7 because I was a fast runner. So anyone that has the ball would give me. I would always play on the wing. Anytime we even race, I was always coming out for. So I always loved football. But, parents at that time reckoned, football wasn't the thing that we needed to focus on.
Education was the key.
Education wasn't. So you would always, so the limited time that you have, that is what you spend, playing football. When I went to high school, I remember some of the people that I shared the same class with in science class will attribute to that. Yeah. I wasn't the best player, but I was the player that if he doesn't play, the class doesn't play.
The class doesn't play.
I think I was I was the most controversial one when it comes to when we have issues. So science class, if Sadibou says I'm not playing, then they don't play.
They don't play.
So everyone will be like, boy, Sadibou, let's go and play. So then I'll eventually play. I think I would play in the midfield, combative here and there, just give that, how would I say?
You were the captain of the...
Sort of. So, I've always loved football. Yeah. And when I was there, there was there were teams that were from my neighborhood. We had Natanga.
Okay, Natanga,
that was the team from my neighborhood that we supported as kids, and then the younger ones from the Natanga generation formed another group called Rico. Mr. Fall, Jack Fall's dad, Amadou Fall formed that team, Rico. They were very talented youngsters. So we would support them and we would always follow them wherever they are. And, some of them went to play for Hawks Football Club. So we eventually followed them. That's why you see Nawetan has more following.
Yeah, more following, exactly.
So, then going to Gambia High School, I started following, Hawks Football Club, and then I became a fan. I know most of the players at the time, And then when I came back from the UK, I was associated with people who were running the club. So I decided to join the club. And then when I got in by sheer volunteerism, that is what got me here today. I came in as Assistant Secretary, Secretary General, and the rest is history.
All right, but it was not smooth, you ventured into Gambian football and then seeing what Gambian football was like, because we've seen so many transitions of Gambian football from the Sidi Kenta era normalization, Mustafa Kebe normalization, and then to the present one. How was it like?
I think, there has been a series of transitions, as you said, in Gambian football, which has, moved us from one generation to the other, and this has been gradual, but I would say a bit slower than it should have been. Yeah. I mean, from 1952 to date, I mean, we've only qualified for AFCON, 2 years ago, and we played AFCON last year. This year, sorry. Yeah. So we played AFCON this year. So I think a lot has been done by the people who were there. It got to a point where, funds started coming in, and the approach to how we can develop our football started shifting. You cannot talk about the history of Gambian football, its success, without naming the likes of the late Alaji Hussein Njai, the late Alaji Obi Konate, the late Omar Sy, even the others, MC Cham, Honorable MC Cham, he's been a minister, he's one of the longest serving, presidents, he's been there, from Semega Jane's time coming all the way, George Gomez and all these people. It's been a transition that has gotten us to a point where our football could have moved. But when we got to a certain point where funds started coming in, people became exposed to a lot of things, people started wanting more, exactly. And they're not getting more. Okay. Because initially, it was more of a passion for these people who were putting their resources into it. These are individuals who had businesses, and at the time of their demise, they didn't have much left just because they've put it all into football. They were even spending their resources to put people into employment. So, the others who have come in as well have done their quota, despite the fact that Gambians want more. So it is my belief that, football should live up to its expectations, because Gambians want a lot more, and if other countries are doing it, we should be able to. And that is the reason why we have taken it upon ourselves to ensure that we get in and to make things happen. Yeah,
and you've played a key role in, for me, I would say, in bringing the current president to power, all right? In him, leading Gambian football. How does it happen?
Well, when you are involved in anything...
Because we know that you people wanted to bring in Modu Musa, but at the end of the day, it failed. Kebe won. You went and regrouped again. There was another normalization committee, and then you people came again, and this time around, Kaba came in.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot throughout that period.
Yeah.
I remember 2013 April, that was when this, the current GFF constitution was first adopted. We used to have the GFA. And then when the normalization came in, when the GFA was dissolved,
Yeah.
you know, there was a 2-year gap, and you know, a new constitution was brought in. FIFA sent in a consultant called Primo Carvalho. Late Alaji Obi Konate was the chairman of the normalization, and then his vice was the late Alaji Omar Sy. They did a tremendous job. I mean, the way the GFA was structured at the time, you know, there were certain issues. You know, although they were doing what they were doing, but there was a need for us to adjust and adapt to the current system of football administration. So that constitution was adopted in April 2013, and we were, you know, all supposed to go and work in our own individual ways to come up, you know, with candidates that were going to vie for the position of presidency.
Yeah.
I was part of the group that supported Mamadou Musa, you know, former managing director of FIB, now Vista. He used to work for Trust Bank as well, a financial expert. You know, I mean, I think I was one of the strongest advocates for him being president, because, I mean, I've always admired him.
Okay.
And, you know, when we were talking about candidates, I said I was, you know, part of the people that wanted to support him coming in. Because when we were forming that group, he wasn't in. Okay. And we needed to come up with a candidate. So we went to that elections and lost to Mustafa Kebe. And then, you know, unfortunately, they got dissolved. There was another normalization, and then we had to go back to the drawing board. So going back to the drawing board, I think with the experience that I've gathered, we were trying to form an executive. Okay. So even the Mamadou Musa time, when we were going for elections, you know, I was nominated to be one of the 3rd vice presidents at the time. Yeah. Because one of our, you know, candidates, one of our running mates, you know, had, you know, decided, well, I would say one of our running mates went out of town, okay, and we needed to adjust ourselves. So I was called at night to say, you are going to be the 3rd vice presidential candidate. And I said I wasn't ready at the time, because I just came in 2010, and that was some like 2013, 2014. So I needed to give myself time to, you know, but despite that, we lost that election. Okay. And then when that group came in, that is Mustafa Kebe executive, they also got dissolved after a year. You know, we had to go back to the drawing board. So when we were forming that executive, it was Mamadou Musa we wanted to bring in again. Yeah. And I was named in one of the running mates. But eventually, as time went on, the names started changing, and other people came in, but I still supported that group. So
why the name started changing?
Well, these were information.
Were you people backed by the then government or then President Jammeh?
I am not sure that would be a right thing to say, because I never had a face-to-face with Jammeh. I never spoke to anybody that was there.
Never, but at the top there,
you know, it's information that you get.
Exactly.
You know, you definitely. And those were times when you barely ask questions. Yeah. You know, this was Jammeh era. You know, and they say government wants you to do this, or somebody wants you to do this. You know, those are things, you know, those were times you barely ask questions. But I don't think, you know, even if that's what someone said, I don't think, because during that time, I think when Jammeh was here, Jammeh never met the executive. Yeah. They never had an audience. So if he was a Jammeh-supported executive, he would have met them, or he would have, you know, requested for an audience with them.
No, maybe he was just in the shadows, you know.
Maybe, you know, but I don't think, you know, Jammeh was in. I mean, with all the things that has been said about Jammeh, to be honest, I don't think he had a hand in it. I mean, looking at it in hindsight, because like I said, I was one of the I was one of the running mates. When they came for the second time, it was Mamadou Musa, and my name was first vice president, and Mr. Ibu Faye, who's the current 2nd vice president, he wanted the 2nd vice president, because he said he was either 2nd vice president or the presidency. And I remember Mr. Mamadou Musa telling him, I don't really mind, if you want my position, you can have it. So he took the 2nd vice, and then we had Martin Gomez for the 3rd. So at some point, I was told that, you know, we needed to bring in somebody who was experienced, Tajalo, you know, from Gamtel, and he's from Basse, and then we needed to appeal to the, you know, the regional community. So, you know, I had to give up my position. That was how I gave up my position during that time. Yeah. And, you know, when that was happening at that time, you know, there was a negotiation between 2 camps for us to sort of amalgamate and form one executive. Yeah. So that was why current President Bajo came into, you know,
but Bajo was not in any of those camps.
No, he came in
as a mediator. Yeah. And at the end of the day, the mediator was in fact the...
Well, you could say that. He was a mediator in between, because there was the tension between the 2 groups was really high.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you know, I support the idea of bringing somebody to mediate between the two groups.
Yeah.
But I don't remember, you know, him ever even coming to meet our group to say, you guys should try and, you know, come to terms with the others. What I remember was, you know, there was a mediator that was supposed to talk in between the two of us, the two groups. And the next thing, you know, they said, you know, they wanted us to take him. So for us as well, Mourou Musa said, you know, he just wanted to.
And for us, for you people to take him and no question asked.
Yes, to be honest, no questions were asked. I don't remember any questions being asked because we also, at the time, we thought, you know, it was good for us to have somebody that was not coming from Banjul because that was how they saw, you know, the group at the time.
Okay, the Combos and the Banjul.
Yes, so that was how they saw the group, you know, some of the stakeholders saw the group. So we thought, okay, our objective was just to develop Gambian football. So if you're bringing in somebody who's a you know, former diplomat, a seasoned, you know, a career diplomat and a seasoned minister, it's okay for us to have him in. And then he came in. So for us, it was a matter of us putting him there and, you know, and advise him as to how he needed to run our football.
Okay. And then when he was put there after the first term, you know, he needed re-election again. And then there were so many allegations of corruption at the time, you know, with the other camp that were challenging, you know, Kaba. But you also played the key role there in making so that Kaba is re-elected again.
Yes. So, see, the thing is, SARA, I always say he who asserts must give evidence. If you assert or, you know, if you make allegations, you must prove.
Yeah.
At the time I was defending, you know, President Bajo, I was of the fervent belief that, you know, he was the person to have led our football.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, him as a leader, you know, came in with his experience as a seasoned diplomat.
Yeah.
I was in the executive at the time. And, you know, when he came in for re-election, I looked at the two people that were available for re-election. Because I represented a club. But when I was going to support him at the time, despite the fact that I represented the club, everything I did, I was using my own resources, my own time, my own energy to do that. It was not like my club was paying me, you know, for me to do that. You know, if you're being paid by a club, so whatever you do, you mean, you know, the club is doing that, but I wasn't being paid. So him at the time, he was contesting against Malik Silla, you know, a retired referee. You know, I looked at both candidates and I believe he was the right candidate at the time. And, you know, he had just done his first 4 years. And, you know, there was some progress, even though there were some issues that, but, you know, when you look at certain things, you grade. Just like an exam. Yeah. You grade something. You look at it whether the person has performed below par, is it less than 50, or, you know. But that was the time, you know, the technical training center and all those things were refurbished and all of that. But there were so many allegations that, you know, there were tax allegations and other things, and there wasn't any concrete evidence at the time. Yeah. You know, if there was, you know, if I had seen that, I would have said, okay, this is what I believe in. But when I went in as an executive member and I have seen certain things myself, I was able to come out, you know, and say, this is what I believe. Because everything that I came with, I had proof. I had evidence. And there's none of the things that I had said that anybody has rebuked to say this is in, you know, nobody has rebutted any of them. So at the time, him coming in, I believe he was the right candidate, and, you know, I had to do all I can. So for me, it wasn't about me being at the helm of affairs. It was about us moving our football in the right direction and having the best candidate that would run our football. Yeah,
but at the end of the day, the best candidate does not turn out to be the best candidate, because at the end of the day, you came out, you know, from the camp and then, you know, challenge him.
Yes, I mean, I said this in some of my interviews. You know, you sometimes you market a product, you market something, and it doesn't turn out to be what you expect it to be. Yeah. I mean, I was of the fervent belief that he was the best candidate. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say he hasn't done anything, even in his second term. But if you grade him in his second term, I would say he performed way below par. Yeah. You know, that's what you do. I wouldn't say he hasn't done anything. I'll be wrong to say that. Yeah. But if you grade him, you know, that would be a failure. And obviously, if you take an exam and you haven't passed, you know, you'd stay, or you know, you can always get somebody else. And football has gotten to a stage where you need bright and new ideas to move us forward. Yeah. You see people telling you, oh, okay, can Halabi know football, or Maniaga knows football. But what ideas did you bring in? What do you have? What can you put on the table? For me, that was it. I wasn't just greedy for power. And in fact, I didn't just sit down and say I was vying for the position. You know, I mean, it's African for people to say, oh, Halabi, dafa yakanti. No. Yeah. There were people who approached me. When I was in the executive, I was one vocal person. I speak my mind, I bring my ideas, I tell them what I feel that we could work. And they themselves, you know, these are things you cannot share. But there are so many things that, you know, when we look at the correspondence, I'll come with my analysis and the president will eventually say, I think what Sadibou said.
Were you a threat to them at that time, being at the executive?
I don't think I was, because I had never...
No, because you challenging them, you know, challenging their decision, telling them, no, it's not this, we have to do it this way.
Even when I do that, I always do it in a polite manner and I exercise a lot of decorum. You know, when I bring, you know, when I challenge you on certain things, I always come with what I feel is something that we could use. I don't think I was ever a threat until maybe when they realized that I wanted to vie for the position. And you know that mentality when you feel somebody wants your position, and you know, so. But I don't think, maybe now I'm a threat, because anybody who's affiliated to the GFF, when they see you affiliated to me, I've just conducted a training and the GFF is telling people, you know, they don't know what my legal competence or, you know, technical competence is when it comes to football administration. I don't think any of them has served as a general secretary in football more than I have. I don't think any of them has had more experience than I have when it comes to, you know, running a secretariat of football. And with all due respect to everyone, I don't think I was a threat at the time I was there, because I served wholeheartedly. I was giving my all. I wasn't sabotaging, because, you know, if I see anything, I speak my mind. I tell the president in his face with respect. I believe this is not right. I believe we should do. There are instances he would listen. There are instances when you'll say yes, and then eventually it is done the other way. So I don't think I manifested anything that would have made them feel threatened.
During your stay at the GFF, how many times, you know, have you salvaged, have you come to the aid of GFF? Because there was a correspondence that happens in which, you know, you were supposed to be penalized, deducted, you know, money, you know, because of something happens, but at the end of the day, you know, you were pardoned, all right? Why? Because of what you have done, you know, for the federation.
Yeah, I wouldn't say pardon. The balance of the money was waived.
Okay, well, waived, okay.
To say that, you know, last week a friend of mine in Uganda just texted me and said, did you read the story on BBC? There was a tourist guy who left his bag in Kenyan airport, about $19,000 there. You know, he said, maybe we should have picked that bag to pay that money. So, you know, and he said, you see, these things happen. So these are people who all knew about the story at the time, and they all shared my anguish. But I honestly cannot remember how many times I've done that. And Sarah, when I was doing that, I was not even doing that in to expect any reward or any thank you for it. I was printing invitations for GFF programs for free. Even the first awards night that was done here, I printed all the invitations and all the magazines that were done. You know, when GFF sometimes, when they needed resources, I would make my resources available to them until they have that. I would make my vehicles available when we were transporting some motorbikes. My pickup did that when the FIFA, you know, I cannot count them all. They would see this. These are some of the most prominent ones that I can remember. And sometimes even programs happen and journalists have to be given transport refunds. I did that. I didn't have to say these things, but I had to so people can understand. So for me, it was a matter of just making it happen. And I never went anywhere to tell the journalists, oh, listen, I was the one who paid your transport refund. No. I just wanted things to happen. And anytime there was anything to do, I would be one of the first to volunteer. At some point, I think some people were even claiming, oh, Sadibou was serving in a lot of committees, why is he there? But I was serving in these committees and I was giving my all. In any committee that I served, I wasn't just there as a rubber stamp member. My voices were heard, my contributions were made. So I definitely cannot remember, but as I said, I was doing all of it out of my love for football and my love for Gambian football to develop to the next level.
Hawks FC, your team, or your previous team, did they supported you when you when you have the idea that you want to stand, when people were pushing you, you know, obviously they knew that you were from a club, all right? The idea, when you exchange the idea with your members at club level, at Hawks, did they show you support?
See, Sarah, I've always said I didn't want to discuss Hawks because it's a private institution. But everybody knows Hawks did not support me, which is very clear, and I don't want to say more on that. But
why you don't want to say more on that? Because I've came across a report, you know, on the Fatu network, you know, where they interviewed the president of Hawks, you know, and he mentioned so many things, that it was you and the vice president that were suspended, you know, because the two of you, you know, were not, you know, on the same platform, and then they don't want you to sign something that the club does not want. So why you don't want to talk about Hawks?
I have immense respect for the people I served within that executive, and out of sheer respect, for them, I will want to talk more on that, because you know, in the kind of society we come from, you know, the elders would always stand right. But one thing I can tell you, I have never signed anything in Hawks that somebody is not aware of. I have never done anything. Even, you know, the team managers will tell you whatever that I have to communicate with other individuals, I do. What I would say is, we've seen that Hawks nominated another individual that is not me. But when I was going for the GFF elections, I spoke to individuals in the club, and I had blessings. I don't just get up and do things. I had blessings from individuals. You know, this is making me go further into it, but out of respect for those individuals, I don't want to talk more on that. But one thing I can say, they didn't support me, and I respect that. I totally respect that. But I served that club.
How do you feel? Regret? Do you regret serving Hawks? Do you feel? Do you feel? Do you feel pain inside you? You know, for the number of years, your energy, your resources that you have spent at the club, and needing them at the last minute, and then...
See, I'm a businessman, and we take risks. So sometimes we invest in certain things and it goes the wrong way. And then you just get up, because so long as there's life, you can always move on. I have no hatred. I'm not angry at anybody. I've you know, turned a new page. And, you know, I'm marching on. I mean, whatever happened there happened. You know, I respect people's decisions. And, you know, so one would also expect people will respect my decision and my position. But I haven't done anything wrong. You know, I'm a Gambian. I'm qualified to vie for the GFF presidential position. And I have every right to do that. You know, so if you are from a family and your family, you know, abandons you, I think you have every right to move and get on with life. You know, it doesn't mean that's the end of life. And I wish them nothing but good luck, and I hope, you know, things work out for them. But I wouldn't want to.
And I think not the whole family abandoned you, because the players, you know, when they won the league, they came and celebrate with you.
No, there were some executive members that even left. There are some executive members that left the club. So, you know, those are things that, Sarah, you are dragging me. You're finding a way to get me to talk about. But out of respect for the club, they say, like I said, love doesn't die in a day.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I wouldn't want to be talking about them. I wouldn't want to be, you know, saying anything that is related to the club. You know, but I am moving on. You know, and nothing except God can stop me from doing what I have to do, because whatever I do, the people who are there know me. I always try to do things the right way. I like to be transparent, and I, you know, use the best of my ability and honesty to make sure I get what I want. So if I had done anything that was wrong, if I had stolen monies or I had signed any letters that, you know, I shouldn't have signed, I would have expected some reprimand or whatever. But I am moving on. I am happy. I'm in football. Nobody can take that from me. I was volunteering, so I am moving. I'm with Young Africans for now, and I'm doing what I'm doing.
Okay. Now let's come to the elections of the GFF. What happened? Some people say Sadibou was so lenient, you know, even on the day that you were denied entry, you know, into the event. Some people thought that, well, Sadibou and team could have protested, you know, election cancelled, you know, and then FIFA or CAF take it up, and then we see what next for Gambian football. But here is the Sadibou, very calm, somebody who respected the rules, respected the laws, allowed everything to pass through, and then went to the hall, at the end of the day, lost.
Sarah, you know, when you lead people, you always have to show a good example.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot be leading people and then you manifest certain attributes that would make people see you different, or that could have caused a lot of things. Even some of the people who supported me, there were some people who were not even in football that were saying, no, you guys should have, you know, displayed, you should have, but that would have caused chaos.
Yeah.
And we know what we've just gotten ourselves out of, you know. I mean, we have a newfound democracy, and if you love your country, all you would want is to see to it that peace and sanity prevails.
Yeah.
I know the legal avenues I needed to use, and I know what I needed to do, you know, during the day of the elections, before the election. See, a lot of people were even saying, oh, when people were busy campaigning, Sadibou was busy on social media. Let me say this, I'm not on Facebook.
Yeah.
A lot of people tell me, oh, I sent you a message on Facebook, you didn't reply. I said, no, I keep telling them, I'm not on Facebook. We have a team. Team Restore has a team that manages that. We have a communications team, because people need to understand the value of communications. We had a team that was doing that. I went to 90% of the stakeholders, because there was a group that started this. And there were people that are even in the executive now that were part of this. So if we start something together and we commit other people, I don't belong to a group that commits people only to turn their backs on them. I mean, I don't have anything but my word. Because if I come to SARA and tell SARA this is what we need to do, and you tell me, oh, Sadibou, you know I've been in my corner, I don't want to get involved in this, but if you get me involved and I get involved and you change, you're going to leave me embarrassed. And the fact that those people have given me their words, I couldn't have turned my backs on them. There were people who were in this with me in this together. Yeah. They know. I mean, day of judgment, you know, all those things would be clear. And sometimes it wouldn't be even the day of judgment, even on earth. Yeah. You know, there were lots of people that we were in this together with. So eventually, things went and things changed. And a lot of things were done by the Federation to turn things around. You know, the formation of the Electoral Committee, the formation of the Appeals Committee, the information that I had, you know, that I got from people who wouldn't want me to share. Like you see some people that were serving in Appeals Committee or Electoral Committee that were with the President in certain places. You know, those are things, you know, Sarah. So for me, it was a matter of us just exercising decorum and ensuring things happen. I was there, the people who were stopping me, the chairman of the Electoral Committee stopped me from attending the Congress. The Congress that he has nothing to do with.
No, yeah, exactly.
I mean, we have a sports council, we have a ministry, we have a National Assembly. I sent my protest to, I sent my petition to all these people. I petitioned every institution individually for their position on the matter, whether they're going to correct these wrongs after, or whatever actions they're going to take to remedy the situation, it's up to them. But we had to do what was right, and we had to exercise a lot of decorum so that the people who were following would exercise same. And I had to use all the avenues available that were right and legal for me to, you know, approach this. But I wasn't going to fight. Okay. I wasn't going to take this to another level to cause chaos. We had a group that were following us that were even saying, oh, let us go out, let us protest. And I told them, if you are supporting me, I don't want to see you on the streets. The stakeholders have spoken. A good number of those stakeholders were calling me. We were talking. There were people I saw in that hall. Yeah. I mean, the elections have passed. This relationship will continue. Some of them were calling me. We were talking almost every time. And today, if those people decide to change, I just respect their position. We have a long way to go. We are all here. Yeah. You know, I mean, I was in surviving on football. I have my business to run. So if things change that way, I just had to exercise my decorum and ensure I did what was right, you know, just to win the elections.
Okay. And how does your petition goes? I know you've written to FIFA, CAF and others. Do you get any response on your petitions?
None except CAF. Yeah. Only CAF wrote to me. The letter was dated on the 2nd of December, but I was busy with some scouts that came from Frosinone in Italy and Fenerbahce in Turkey. I didn't have the time to reply, but I replied them. Because what they were saying was they were referring me to Article 64 of the GFF Constitution, which says arbitration, that the GFF should set up an independent arbitration panel to deal with such matters, because they feel it is an internal dispute.
Yeah.
So the GFF should set up an arbitration body to deal with such matters. And if that is not done, we can go to CAS. Okay? And they were also saying that, we needed to channel this to GFF. I mean, I think this was understandable. But I replied to them. What I said was, one of the fundamental principles of natural justice is, in Latin, nemo judex in causa sua. You cannot be a party in your own case. I cannot have an issue with the GFF and I go to the GFF for GFF to resolve that.
Exactly.
If the GFF had set up an independent arbitration, yes, I could go there for redress. But that wasn't done. That's why I asked them, some of the issues to have been determined by them was an independent arbitration panel established? No. And the GFF constitution also says the GFF executive should set up the protocols, the rules and regulations concerning that arbitration panel. Was that also done? No. So how could I go to them to solve that issue? So it's like somebody has a problem with the Gambia government and then you go to Gambia government to solve the issue. We've seen cases where CAMARA, Fatu Network had issues with the Gambia government. She couldn't get redress. She went to the ECOWAS Court of Justice and they granted it. So the GFF is affiliated to CAF. So our first instance, the first instance is to go to CAF when someone has an issue with the GFF. So if CAF tells me they don't have jurisdiction, I've told them I respect their position on the matter, but that means then, if you have an issue with the GFF, then you are doomed. There's nothing that you can do.
There's nothing that you can do.
Yeah.
Okay, but still now, election
we're waiting
passed.
for FIFA. Okay. We don't know what FIFA is going to say.
Okay.
They approach things differently.
Yeah.
So what CAF wrote was they lack the jurisdiction, even though the GFF is affiliated to them. Okay. So we will see. It's just like a third division club has an issue with the Regional Football Association. They go to GFF for redress and GFF tells them, oh, we do not have jurisdiction.
Okay.
So for me, we're now waiting for FIFA to hear what they would say.
Okay. Now, elections have passed. We've seen you venturing into, still not in football, we've seen you invited, scouts, in this country. Did you partner with the GFF, the current GFF, or did you also, invite them, to come and join you?
No, you do not need to partner with the GFF to invite scouts.
Yeah.
Because they have no role to play in that. We've been doing scouting even before the GFF elections. I've been doing scouting programs here, and I've never, for once, invited the GFF. Yeah. So I didn't need to invite them on that. You know. So, but the scouting was done, and we invited 18 clubs. Okay. And I'm happy to say about 8 players have been selected, and hopefully, they should be leaving the shores of this country. It depends on what the negotiations would be between their teams and the clubs.
And what about the training that you were also doing?
Well, yes. See, the idea of the training, came about, from most of the requests that I get. Most of the general secretaries say, Sadibou, we have this letter for release, how do we do it? We have this letter that we want to draft for transfer request, how do we do it? What do you know about third-party ownership, TPO? What about TMS?
Why haven't you directed them to the GFF?
No, even when I was serving the GFF. Even when I was serving the GFF. There are a few people who understand these things, Sarah. Yeah. As a general secretary, I think I have every right to share the knowledge and experience that I have with anybody. Who's telling people they don't want to see a coach training young ones here? Have you ever had the GFF saying we don't want to see any coach training any person here?
No.
What legal competence or technical competence does a coach have to train somebody?
No.
No. This is exactly the same thing that I was doing. I have this knowledge, I have the experience, and I wanted to share it with people. I could go with my knowledge and experience and not share it with people. But a day or week doesn't go by without somebody calling me to ask me, how did I do this? How do I profile my players? They have a transfer request. How do they handle it? They have a contract. How do they handle it? So I thought, why don't you bring all these people together? And then we share our ideas. It wasn't just me giving them what I have in me. If you ask the participants that came, who were so appreciative of what I've done, it was an interactive one. When they came in, I did a needs assessment. What do you know? And based on that, I was able to give what I have. And I invited a communication specialist in the name of Sang Mendy. Because before I conducted the program, I did some research as to those who I needed to talk to, and people talked about communication. So I approached him. He's been in football as well. He used to run Gilcock Academy, Bruford branch. And I told him this is what I wanted to do. And he said, Sadibou, I'd love to, play a part and do this. And he said, but, you're doing it for free. I think it's about time we start charging for these things so that people can take it seriously.
Yeah.
And I said, I appreciate that. But at this time, if I charge people for this, one, we've seen the communication that came from GFF. That was, all sorts of things would come out of it. Thank God I didn't, they would start thinking, oh, maybe he's bereft of cash and he wants to make money, he's trying to, lure these people, and then people start talking. So I thought I could share this, my knowledge and experience from my own pocket. So we hired the hall. We wanted to use Majak.
Okay.
And the number of participants we had, was so huge that we couldn't fit in one hall in Majak.
Okay.
So we had to go and hire YMCA and use YMCA, and then we provided refreshments, the notepads and all. My team and I had to provide that to ensure the training will go successfully. If you ask the participants who were there, everybody was appreciated. You'll be surprised that some of these people, you ask them what is a TPO, third party ownership in football, they do not know. So how do you expect them to do transfers? And no single training of that sort has happened in the Gambia. SARA, the first GFF retreat, the idea to organize a retreat between the staff and the executive was my idea.
Your idea, okay.
And I was a resource person. Nobody questioned my legal or technical competence.
But now they are questioning it.
So, politics is politics, but I'm not politicking.
Okay.
I don't have the time for politicking. I have a team, I have a following.
Okay.
So sometimes it's not everything that you want to do your way goes your way. You sit with your people, and then you brainstorm, and then you have an idea as to how you want to, what direction you want to take, and then you go that way.
And that will make me to ask you, we come into the final part. Is Sadibou going to run again? GFF president. Sarah, don't let people start coming to my house and throwing grenades. Is Sadibou going to run again? Because we know that the incumbent right now, I will not say the incumbent, the president right now, I think this is final term. All right? But Gambia will have a new face. That's going to be the next GFA presidency election. Is Sadibou going to run again?
Sarah, the Team Restore Confidence is now a registered charity.
I know.
We're registered.
Yes.
That's why we're able to do these things. So we have legal mandate to do some of these things we are doing.
Yeah.
We are not organizing leagues to invite clubs. So we know our rights because we have legal advisors. And with my little legal experience, and I don't think we would do something that would jeopardize whatever we're doing. We have a team, and come 2026, maybe the team would sit down again and look at somebody that they feel is the right candidate. If you look at Modu Musa, the first time
what is on the mind of Sadibou? I'm not talking about the team.
Develop Gambian football.
I'm talking about what is on the mind of Sadibou.
It's not about position.
Is Sadibou going to run again?
If Team Restore Confidence, or
if stakeholders comes to you and tell you, Sadibou, we want you to run again, are you going to run again?
I'll do the same consultations like I did before.
Yeah.
So ask my close family members and people that are close to me, what they feel. Sarah, a lot of my family members and people that are close to me endured so much pain during this time. Because some people that don't know you, or some people will go on social media and make allegations. But the good thing is I'm not on social media. So I go home and sleep. My wife tells me, how do you sleep? I said, why? She said, just social. I said, I'm not on social media. So half of the things that are there are not right. I just have to apologize to them again for making them go through all that anguish during that time where because most of them they all know me, and they know some of the allegations against me were untrue, because if I indeed stole money, I would have been in jail by now. I would have been taken to court or reprimanded or something. But people can come to social media and say things, but I'm not the type that would throw stones back at those sort of things. I'm way above that, because most of the people who are saying that we're not on the same level, those who I'm on the same level with wouldn't say that. So if the team decides that I'm the right candidate, remember 4 years is short, but it's long.
Very short.
And you have very sharp minds that could come from Team Restore Confidence. And there could be primaries.
But you started something. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, Modu Musa vied for the position.
Yeah.
When that team got dissolved, the team came back and somebody challenged, and things changed, and he said, okay, no, I don't think I want to contest for it. So you never know. Maybe I could be I could be doing something in Guatemala or in some other country. You never know. But if I am here and I'm fit, and my team feels I'm the right candidate, people change every 5 minutes, Sarah, and things and times change. So you never know what's going to happen that time. But if I am here and I'm fit at the time, I will. But for now, our focus is how do we give back to Gambian football and see to it that things develop.
So I can conclude by saying Sadibou is a successful business entrepreneur.
See, I mean, I keep telling people, when you say success, it's not about finance or the amount of books you've written, or, if you are able to, make some people look up to you and believe they could do what you've done or be better, then you're successful. So I feel I have not even started yet.
Sadibou, someone told me, he looks at you, someone told me, after the debate, he told me, I looked at Sadibou, I went through his profile, everything, I see success all over his body.
Yeah, that, you could see success, and I feel I can still be better. I feel I have a long way to go. I mean, alhamdulillah, I have my business that I'm running, Creation Plus. I have other businesses that I own shares in, like with my friends. And
what are those businesses?
I have SA Plus, which brings in Rizzo. We are official distributors for Rizzo products. Rizzo is a duplicator that copies, and can copy 130 sheets in a minute. Yeah. So we bring those machines, we bring their consumables. I have a partner in that business, and we also have Baudi. That with some Italian partners, we export, seafood products from the Gambia to Europe. Okay. These are things that I do, and any other thing legitimate, so long as it is legitimate.
Legitimate business.
I am into it, but I don't think it would be right to say Sadibou is successful. I have a long way to go. I mean, alhamdulillah, a lot of young people today look up to me, and I'm so grateful because I go to places now and people tell me, Kamaso, I feel so honored, I feel so humbled, that I was able to do something that, some people are looking up to me. And that means I have to be on my toes. I cannot rest on my oars because people are looking up to me. I need to try to be better every day. And I hope and pray I can live up to expectations.
And finally, what message do you have to Gambians, especially those who want to become like Sadibou, and a message to Gambian football?
Well, for those who want to be like me, I urge them to be better. There's no secret behind success. My family will tell you I don't have anything like a holiday. When they say, Sadibou, Yancy office, we take public holiday, like, the office is public holiday, I say, I'm not public, I'm private. I try to be better. Yeah. I mean, Sarah, I come from a very humble background. Alhamdulillah, I have my own business, I have people employed, my family, my kids go to an international school. My daughter is now in uni in Canada. Alhamdulillah. So, I mean, I cannot but thank God for, what He has provided for me. And there are other people who have done business with in this country who, have been very supportive of me because they've seen the determination in me. And I cannot but thank them. They wouldn't want me to mention their names, but they know themselves. These are people, I could walk up to them and say, give me $1 million to go and invest in something. They wouldn't ask me. They know I'll get the money. And they're here in this country. So some of them were actually fuming when they heard about that story. Like, we know you wouldn't do it. I said, no, don't worry. These are things that would happen. But for the Gambian people, those who were supporting me and, took their time, their resources, their energy and everything they had to ensure that we win, hats off to you. I mean, we're sorry that you had to go through what you had gone through, to all the arguments. Last week I was at the airport and this guy just walks up to me and greets me, Kamaso, how are you? I said, hello. And the guy I was with says, I'm sure GFF election. I said, yeah. And then before he left, he came back and said to me, do not relax. Your time will come. You will be the next GFF president. And I said, you never know. Maybe somebody else would come, but everybody keeps telling me that there are people that I don't know. So to the Gambian people, I know you all want our football to move. You wanted a young person. You wanted somebody to bring in innovative ideas. You wanted somebody to bring in transparency. You wanted somebody with ideas that were going to take Gambian football forward. Unfortunately, the stakeholders decided otherwise. So, we respect their decision. Even though their decision wasn't out of their own, free will, you could tell, some of them would tell you because some of them are contacting some of my members, to say, we did this because of A, B, and C. But, I mean, we've done what we had to do. you know, we had to give it our all, Sarah. I put up a decent campaign, and I have to thank every member of my team that was with me. We've crisscrossed this country. We have people who were campaigning from outside the jurisdiction of the Gambia, and you know, all they wanted was for our football to move forward. So to the Gambian people, our football, you know, I'm, you know, immensely passionate about development of our football, and I still believe we can achieve success. So we cannot rest. Let us not say, football we you know, statements like that, you know, just make you feel sad. Okay. So it is our belief, Team Restore Confidence, that our football can move forward. That is why we registered the group as a civil society organization. We're not running leagues, but we can do trainings, we can do capacity buildings. You can stop anybody who you want to stop, because I don't know how you can stop somebody that you don't pay to come and attend a training program. But you know, we're not resting. Team Restore Confidence is here to stay. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be there forever. We have a constitution that dictates how long you can serve. Okay. So I'm not going to be there forever.
All right. Thank you very much for granting me this interview.
It was a pleasure, sir.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. That was a very interesting interview that we have with Sadibou and Kamaso, as I told you earlier. Is a very familiar name in the Gambia. I will give you another date that's going to be another Sunday again, when we will have another special figure on our special program, SARA out there. I also want to thank my technical crew. I also want to thank, you know, all the viewers, you know, for following this special one. So thank you very much. Bye from me.